Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all well. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Nicola Harvey and I work with Prevention, Partnership and Family Support in Tusla here in Donegal. I am one of a group of people from different services across the county who are known as Parent Support Champions. The Parent Support Champion project is about supporting parents by providing them with evidence-based information, and we do this through promoting key messages for parents through initiatives like this talk today. For more information on parenting, you can go to Parenting 24/7 or mychild.ie. We're absolutely delighted to have Helga Tinnany with us this evening. Helga is a family visitor and training officer with LifeStart Services here in Donegal. Helga has many years of experience working with parents of children in the early years. She has delivered many talks with us in the past and has been involved in the development of 6 short videos on the importance of play. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Helga, who is our speaker this evening. Thanks, Helga.
Thank you, Nicola. Hi, everyone. You're all very welcome to our talk this evening on connected play in the early years. So without further ado, we'll just get started straight into it because we've a good little bit to get through. So we're looking tonight at connected play, not in the 0 to 3 years. And I suppose when we look at connected play, we look at it from obviously from a connected perspective, where play should be fun, it should be relaxed, it should be based on togetherness. So how do we make the most out of play for young children's development? Strong foundations in play from birth will support learning throughout childhood and beyond. And I want to really look at the importance of movement in this talk, and I want to look at the importance of observation and our observation skills as parents to understand the types of play that the children are partaking in and why. So the power of connection and play and some fundamental play activities that provide the basis for learning as they grow is what we are going to focus on this evening. So talking about play, so play starts at the very beginning. It starts right at birth, and tummy time is probably one of the most fundamental things that you can do with a young child. Tummy time should be done right from the very beginning because it aids the development of the body and brain, and it is early play for our young children. It aids the realization of both sides of the body. It strengthens connections in the brain, and it interact and connect during the tummy time, which is a perfect opportunity for you to do connected play, because we can use loads of resources that engage and interest your baby, such as rattles and mirrors and face patterns and beautiful toys. But nothing will ever replace our connection with our young baby when we're doing tummy time. And tummy time up on your shoulder or across your knee, you know, that's also tummy time. It doesn't always need to be on the floor. So it's, you know, very, very vital in the early years not to restrict movement and play in young babies and toddlers. And tummy time, you know, sitting up, rolling and crawling, they're all early play activities that are vital for development and need to be facilitated and encouraged where possible. Unfortunately, too much time spent in baby apparatuses such as bouncers, walkers, huggy seats and buggies all contribute to restriction of movement and restriction of play skills. Container baby syndrome is evident in babies today due to the vast availability of these products in our shops. And unfortunately, you know, children do spend too much time in these containers. It does restrict their movement, and movement, you know, restriction of movement will restrict development down the line. So it's important that children are getting as much floor time and tummy time as possible. The floor is their first playground, and it's really important that we do utilize a safe floor area for our young children. Midline presentation is extremely important for fluent and equal development in young babies. Midline presentation is simply where we present a toy to a child in the middle, so the middle of their body and their face. We gain the child's attention by moving the toy upwards and shaking it, you know, or whatever, showing them the bright colours and making noises. So we're encouraging them to focus their eyes on the object. And once they can do this, slowly lower the toy to hand level, so around about belly button area. And if your child has successfully engaged with this activity, the brain will send signals to the body to be able to reach for that item. So it's really important that the brain sends the signal to the body, and it's not the other way around. When we put children into walkers and bouncers, we're putting them into positions that their brain hasn't decided that they're ready for yet. So it really confuses development. So it's really important that the brain is ready to make the big steps and make to be able to sit up, that the brain decides that a seat doesn't hold them in that position, or that when they decide to walk, the brain and the body have decided together that they can manage this, that the walker hasn't decided that is the thing to do. So play benefits for all children are completely endless, but really, really important in the first couple of years. Play is the work of our child, and if we can combine that free movement with play, we're also giving them really, really good skills in that attention, in the balance and the focus that all children need to maximize their learning potential. So attention, balance and focus is something they're going to need down the line, that they will need in their school life, they will need in their adult life. So play benefits and tummy time and not restricted movement all has their roots in the attention, balance and focus that they need further down the line. So the head writing and wobbling stage, really, really important. I love to see children at this stage where they are starting to become, I suppose, in control of their bodies and learning about balance. So supporting apparatuses that are apparently aid sitting have the opposite effect on balance. So your bamboo seats, they place a baby's hips in flexion rather than extension, and therefore they negatively affect core balance. This is why the head writing and wobbling stage is so important for a child's development and should always be encouraged. And the head writing and wobbling stage is the stage where we're sitting on the floor, we're surrounded by safe cushions and safe areas where a baby can use their hands and their body to be able to stabilize themselves with our help and in a safe way. Whereas when they're in the seats, they don't have to stabilize themselves because the apparatus is doing that for them. So visual development, I suppose. Visual development is vitally important in the early years because for the under threes, 75 to 90% of learning comes through visual pathways. Now, that is a huge amount of learning. So we need to be aware of the visual environment that we're providing for a young child. So vision is learned and it's not automatic. So it's really vital that we encourage parents and caregivers to have visually stimulating environment for their children. What works and what does not. And I suppose the only way of finding out what works and what does not is getting down into the level that where children are at and what they can see, because we may see things from a different angle. We may think we have lovely visually stimulating environment, but maybe our baby doesn't. And particularly when a young baby is down on the floor, often there's not an awful lot to see. So it's important we get down, we put ourselves into the baby's position, have a look around, see what's there for them to see. And if it's not visually stimulating, to just try to add into it. So the very young children need lots of black on white patterns and white on black patterns. And the reason why they need this is because it enhances their focus ability. It builds eye muscle control in the under threes. And then we can slowly add in color and visually stimulating patterns. All of those will provide children with the eye control that they need to be visually proficient. So it's really, really important. It's up to 90% of learning, so have a look. Have a look and see what your young children are actually seeing, and really try to develop it and change it on a weekly basis as well. Change everything around so that different things that they particularly like are on different sides. It's all about fluency. It's all about equality in body and brain. So moving up to shape, size and fit, a really important matching stage that children go through. Top loaders are recommended as the first stage in shape fitting. So when we have a top loader shape sorter, the pieces go in at the top. Side loaders would be second, so that would be kind of over 3. So observe your child's ability, scaffold their strengths, and use what's called the backward chaining approach. Backward chaining is simply, if your child is struggling with all the pieces and all the shapes and all the sizes, you do the most difficult parts first and leave out the ones that are easier for the child to manage. Also at that stage, you'll find that baby mouths everything and that, you know, everything goes to their mouth. So that's okay, as long as it's safe. That's a matching stage that they need to go through. They need to know what it tastes like, what it feels like. So pegboards, the wooden pegboards, we need them to be colour matched. We need them to have large handles and easy to fit. And again, use the backward chaining approach. Fill in the harder shapes first and leave out the circle. Then, you know, add in the square, add in the other one. So it's just, don't give them all the pieces. Don't overload them with too much information in the early years. We need to have a staged approach and a scaffolded approach to learning so that they're not overwhelmed and that they don't give up too soon. So add sound if necessary, if we're trying to pique interest and attention with young babies. If you feel that they're checking out a little bit, they're not really that interested, you know, add sound, add texture, add anything, a little extra sensory layer to any toy will definitely pique their interest and attention. If they're still struggling and, you know, they're really struggling to understand the task at hand, use your hand over hand technique where you're helping them. You know, you're lifting your hand on their hand and you're guiding them and helping them to put in the pieces. You know, children love to be successful, so if they can help them a little in the beginning, and then they will go forward and do it independently themselves. Music and art plays a massive part in a child's development, right up to when they're older. But initially in the early years, classical music and music variety is really important. And classical music in itself, if we can introduce even a half an hour of classical music every day into a child's play, it will help all sorts of development, particularly speech and language, because classical music has all the pitches and tones necessary for good speech. It has all the pitches and tones necessary for good pronunciation. So if they are used to hearing classical music, they will hear all the different pitches and tones. So, you know, try to introduce it into their playtime. Obviously have lots of musical variety because children love music, but, you know, just make sure you add a little bit of classical music into their day. Dancing to connect with your child is a beautiful activity where we can do connected play. Dance to aid their balance, to aid their rhythm, their timing, and their sequence, because their balance mechanism is between their ears. So the more often that we dance with them, the more often they are going to have their balance and their rhythm stimulated. So they are going to learn how to balance in an independent way. So music and art themselves, they're vessels for learning that cannot be replaced, and they must play a vital role in a child's everyday play. And, you know, often we need to, in particular, maybe with art, we need to get organized, we need to plan it. But if we can become, suppose, a little less planned with our art sessions, that they can happen every day, it will really improve your child's quality of play in the early years. Apart from everything else, music and dance and art improves their motor skills, their hand-eye coordination, their small and large muscle movements. And art itself lights up the brain. It reduces stress and enhances creativity, focus, and attention. And when you look at music is the only activity that we can do where the whole brain is engaged. So if you have wonderful music sessions with your children every day, their whole brain is engaged with you, and there is no other activities that include the whole brain. So memory development. Memory development is really important for children to build up, I suppose, a picture in their mind of what it is that that they want to recall. And it starts off with realizing that, you know, when mum or dad leaves the room, that they're going to come back. And I suppose we teach them a lot about that with our peekaboo and games like that, where they're realizing our face is here and then it's gone and then we're back. So peekaboo, very important for the very early stages of memory development. And then we move up to covering the toy and playing things like hide and seek, and covering the toy with a cover for them to lift off the cover and find the toy, you know, looking for the toy when it drops. That is how they're remembering what that item looks like. You have to learn memory development. You have to practice it. So I suppose one thing that I always remembered was the phrase teach to the reach. If we have a young baby under 1 reaching for something, it means they're really, really interested. So therefore you have an opportunity to teach something. So use that toy, use that item that they're really, really interested to teach. So they're reaching for it, covered with the toy, with the cover, the toy, or whatever it happens to be, with a cover, and encourage them to remove it. And the mouthing and matching, which I had already mentioned about the pieces for the pegboards, you know, when they have their treasure boxes, they need to be allowed to mouth and match. So ensure that things that they have are safe to go into their mouth. So books, as we all know, books are wonderful. They have endless benefits. They're a source of magic and a sea of treasure for young children. They're something that cannot be replaced. They are an absolutely wonderful connection opportunity. We're never too young to introduce books. Books can be read to young babies from birth. And, you know, the earlier they're introduced to books and being able to listen to stories, the better, because they have that skill from birth, and they're used to listening to the rhythm and sequence of your voice and sequence of the story. As they get older, you know, books for children are full of simplicity and general life lessons that they really understand. So it really helps with their emotional and social and their moral development also. So the types of books that are important for the under 3s, black and white books, simply for the visual stimulation for the young children. Squeaky and noisy books, adding in a bit of a sensory kick. Bath books, books with pattern and colour. Tiny books for tiny hands, but the ones I love best are the books with real pictures. Real pictures are more meaningful for a young child than cartoon pictures. So even make up your own pictures of faces and people that they know, toys that they love, places that they love, so that they can look through their own book. But also large books are really important. And the reason why large books are really important is because it helps us to teach a left to right and horizontal visual field. When a young baby has a small book, they will automatically look at the right side. So when they have a big book and they're with us, we can draw their attention over to the left side. And we need to have a left to right and horizontal visual field for learning to read and write. So it's really important that we teach that left to right. And unfortunately today there is a very common negative effect on left to right and horizontal visual field, and that is unfortunately screen time. And you know, it's really important that we mention screen time in play, because yes, you know, it's definitely a part of a lot of children and young babies' daily activities, but it's not, you know, screen time is not playtime, and it's something that we have to understand that it is separate. Screen time is definitely not playtime, so we have to make sure that there is quite a balance. It has a negative impact on vision and speech if it is overused. We do have a new generation of scrollers. It instigates that top-down vertical field rather than the left to right horizontal visual field, so it kind of contradicts it a little bit. It weakens our children's cognitive muscles. The frontal lobe lies dormant when we're on screens because it needs normal human interaction to be activated. Attention and concentration are negatively affected, particularly down the line when there's an overuse of screens. And in the under threes, it's, you know, it's non-transferable learning. We may know our colours on a screen, but it can be a wee bit more difficult to understand them and identify them on paper or in books. So, you know, it's just something to be aware of. And we live in, you know, an era of tech, and there's lots of different types of technology. There's now technology in schools, there's screens in schools. So it's just being aware as parents that there is a balance, and that playtime itself completely outweighs any type of screen time. So when we look at speech for the under threes, you know, we could have a whole new hour on speech itself. So I've just picked out the basics that are really important that we can do at home with our kids. Repetition is key for the under threes. You know, if they want to read the same book, absolutely fine. If they want to have the same nursery rhyme, that's absolutely fine. So rhythm is key. How and pace is key. How we are rhyming and making rhythm with our stories, with our reading. That is how we will intrigue our children. That's how we will engage them. Connection is key. We have to be connected to be able to read and sing and dance with our children. If the connection is not there, you know, it is likely that the learning will not be as significant. But what's really, really vital when it comes to speech is movement. The movement and speech are linked together throughout our lives and completely throughout the under fives speech development. Any restriction of movement will in turn restrict our language. And movement, remember, movement is our first language. So we have got to give movement to aid fluency of speech. So fluency of body equals fluency of brain, which will equal fluency of speech. So movement is key. Any children struggling with speech, please, you know, encourage lots of movement in their day. There's lots of activities that you can do that includes moving, whether we're inside or outside. But please ensure there's lots of balanced movement in their playtime. So our next level learning, you know, we're looking at the late twos, early threes, where we want them to understand the effects of cause and effect. I've done something and something else has happened. So lots of toys will show cause and effect. I pulled a string and the toy moved. You know, all of those simple older toys are really, really good at teaching cause and effect. And make sure that those cause and effect, if I press a button and something happens, that it's quite instant, so that they understand that they have controlled that themselves. The law of gravity, they want to know about throwing and dropping. And, you know, what do? We often suction the toy so that they can't throw it. So it's really important that we provide them with toys that are safe to throw, and they can learn the law of gravity in a safe way. Directionality, they need to be able to understand what way and what direction that their body is going. So movement differently on the right side of their body to the left. So being able to pull blocks apart, you know, trying to put them together, taking stacking rings or stacking cups apart. It's really, really important that they can move directionally with their bodies. And jigsaws and puzzles, obviously really, really important, because jigsaws and puzzles, you know, have their basis in spelling in particular, because we have loads of separate pieces that come together to make one. So that's the same when we're coming to spelling. Loads of separate letters that come together to make one word. So if we very quickly see patterns in jigsaws and puzzles, you know, it helps us see the patterns in words and letters as well. Reversible play is really, really important when it comes to the under threes. Children are very much forward planners. They think in a forward planning way. So we have to actually encourage them and give them opportunities to think in a reversible way. And reversibility is important for the likes of mathematics, subtraction and division at school. We you know, anything we do in a forward planned way, we need to be able to do backwards. So reversible play is really important. Reading books backwards that come in a sequence. My Day, going to bed. So you can read it from, getting ready for bed and going to bed, and then you can read it back from being in bed to getting up. So anything that works like that goes in sequence, you'll be able to read it. And for your 3-year-olds, when you're traveling in the car, point out 4 or 5 things that you normally would pass on a daily basis or a couple of times a week, and then on the way back, just point them out in a different, in the reversible way, and that will help your child or your baby build up a reversible mind map. And having a reversible mind map will, it will encourage them to be much more content in their manipulation of their environment around them, because if they can do it forward, they can also do it backwards. Again, it's all to do with the fluency. So sensory play, again, I could do another hour session on sensory play itself. However, unfortunately, we don't have time, but we definitely have time to mention how important it is, because it's vitally important. We all have 8 senses. We have touch, taste, hearing, smell, sight, body position and awareness, internal sense and balance. So the body position and awareness, the internal sense and balances are senses that I suppose we don't hear an awful lot about. And it is important that we do understand that balance is a sense, because it's a very important sense. We can do very little. We can't manipulate our environment without balance. Our internal senses of understanding when we're hungry, when we're thirsty, if we're tired, do we need to go to the toilet? All of that internal sense, it's termed interoception. That is so important, particularly for the under 3s, because we're looking at gaining their independence. We're looking at maybe toilet training. If they don't have a strong interoceptive sense, they're going to have great difficulty with their toilet training. And the other one is body position and awareness, which is just being aware of their body and their environment, knowing how much force to use, knowing when to stand back, knowing how to manipulate their environment without accidents. And the more movement we have and the more rich sensory experiences we have throughout the day, our body position will be enhanced, our internal senses will be enhanced, and our balance will be enhanced. So it's really looking at our children's day and thinking, have they had a lot of sensory play today? Or, was it very much body position and awareness? Or, was it very much touch or taste? Or was there just loads of sensory play where you could see that your child was very much regulated and happy in themselves? So I suppose the best ways that we can do sensory play is messy play, and all of that entails. We all know all the wonderful things that we can do with messy play. Encouraging our children to go bare feet and feel and be regulated. Let their body feel the ground, let their body feel their body position and their balance. Bare feet are really, really good for regulation. It's also really good for retention of information. The great outdoors provides all of the most wonderful opportunities for sensory play. All the ING words, climbing, running, jumping, kicking, all of those, so important. And free movement rather than directed movement for the under 3s. Let the body satisfy itself. We don't have to set up things for them to do. Let the body satisfy themselves. And children have a wonderful way of understanding what it is that their body needs. So as we're approaching 3 years of age, it's really important that we talk about our ability to make decisions and choices at 3. Are we offering children enough opportunity to make choices, to make decisions? Because, once our children move off into play school or school, it's really important that they can be independent and make their choices and understand decisions and consequences themselves. So, please offer opportunities for children to make choices, make them easy for them initially, and then you can make them a little bit harder. Classification and categories, really, really important. If our children can classify and categorize, it means that they can limit the overload of information that they get on a daily basis. And at 3 years of age, you get a lot of information. So you need to learn how to classify and categorize the information. We as adults do that on a daily basis. We can put, work and family and kids all separate and try to navigate our busy lives. But children haven't yet developed that skill under 3. So, going back to games such as, pick flashcards, just using flashcards and asking them to pick out all the animals, pick me out all the vehicles, now pick me out all the pets, just simple things like that. Pick me out the clothes, now pick me out clothes that go on the lower end of the body or clothes that go on the top end of the body. Separating out and classifying and putting things into categories. Books that have everything on the farm, everything in the kitchen, everything in school. They're lovely books to go through at 3 to return to. So you would have used them in the past for point and say, for speech, whereas now we're using them for something completely different, where we're teaching how to classify and categorize. Positioning games, again, very much linked to movement. A child needs to know where they are before they'll ever know who they are. They need to know where they are in their environment to feel fluent and ready to take on the world. So doing positioning games with them, they need to understand in front, behind, beside. So, stand in front of the box, put the doll behind the chair. Little simple movement games like that will give them such great fluency in their bodies that they'll feel much more content. When a child has fluency, they can take on the word. Action rhymes, really important again, but that they can, the simple ones, that they can move their body with a rhyme at the same time, so that they can keep up. They know head, shoulders, knees and toes, when to actually be at head and when to be at knees and when to be at toes. And you will see children struggle with that, and you'll see other children that are very fluent with it. And it's just a matter of practice. But it's an oldie, but it's really important that we continue action rhymes and make up your own action rhymes as well. So next steps for our 3-year-old, across body coordination. It's really important that children can cross one side of the body with the other. So cross your right hand over to your left hand side of your body and your left hand over to your right. And that is called a cross body coordination, or crossing of the midline. And it is another movement that children of this age really, really need to be able to be fluent in their brain and body connections. So that this is how, that we can help that through lacing toys. I'm sure you've seen plenty of lacing toys, lacing blocks, lacing barrels that they can lace through when they're doing their lacing, they're crossing their midline automatically. Drawing with large pages. Very important. Do not confine your young child under 3 or 4 or indeed 5 down to small pages when they're drawn. Give them big pages so that they can cross their midline automatically when they're scribbling and drawing. If they're confined down to a small page, they won't cross their midline. Often as well at this stage, we you'll start to see a child maybe favoring one hand or the other. They might favor their left over their right or vice versa, and that's absolutely fine. But what is important is that we as parents know that the helper hand, which is the non-dominant one, stays engaged as much as possible. It is just as important as the dominant hand. So make sure that that wee hand is up on the table when they're doing whatever it is that they're doing, that it's engaged in the process, because it plays just a bit as big a role as the dominant hand. When I spoke about the large pages, easels as well are really, really useful. So when a child is up at an easel and they're drawn on an easel, they're crossing their midline, and their wrist and shoulder position are in the perfect position for good writing skills. So returning to the old easels that they had maybe when they were a little bit younger. Listening skills for children, really, really important. And, again, it's something that has to be taught. There's no coincidence that the word listen and the word silent have the same letters, just in different order, because we can't listen until we are silent. So it is really important that we play listening games. Shh. Fine-tune our children down. Shh. What do you hear? And normally, first time they'll say nothing, but you know, keep going. No, shh, listen, listen. And then they might be able to point out the horn in the background or the lorry or the tractor or whatever it happens to be. So just fine tune down their listening skills, and that will really, really help them and serve as a great asset to them as they go forward. Imagination is so important in the under threes in particular. Imagination is a rich source of learning, as we know. And in our young children, the right brain, which is where the imaginative creative side comes from, develops first, and it's fully developed by 3 to 4 years of age, which is amazing, you know. So the left brain continues on to maybe around 7 or 8 years. So the right brain needs, you know, the right brain needs to be watered first in a way. So with our under threes, you know, focus on right brain development of creativity and imagination. We need a solid right brain for the left brain to develop to its full capacity. And you know, dressing up, letting them be whoever they want to be, and their superheroes and their wonderful stories, that all feeds the right brain. You know, you can move away. You don't need to focus on letters and numbers. If you have a strong right brain, the left brain will have a really, really strong scaffold to build upon as the more numerical, logical stuff comes into play. So the imagination also feeds what we call, and we term, flexible thinking. Flexible thinking is where the under threes can think outside the box, and they can show flexibility in their play by using maybe items for different uses. Children are pretty good at this, and some children really struggle at it. But children need to learn flexibility, as life demands flexibility and adaptation to change. So encouraging them to use their thoughts and their play skills. Hand them, you know, treasure boxes full of items that you're not quite sure what they might do with them, but as long as they're safe, they will, you know, and they can play with them. Perfect. And watch them use their flexible thinking. And it's something that I suppose we don't give enough attention to. But if we want children to be able to adapt to change, which is really, you know, really difficult, then we need to provide them with opportunities to do so. Excuse me. So flexible thinking, it's vital for creativity. It's really important for empathy. It's vital for trust. It helps children adapt to change. It enhances feelings of security, and it enhances emotional growth. And, you know, if we can help children be flexible, they will very quickly understand things from other people's point of view. They'll learn empathy faster. They will understand their social relationships better when they start school. So definitely, you know, have time with your flexible thinking. So the roots of play, all of these activities are important, but nothing will replace the importance of your engagement and your interaction with a young child. Embrace returning to your roots of play. Are there roles of play we are more comfortable in than others? Explore your levels with play. Don't be afraid to unleash your inner child. Are you showing genuine interest and engagement with your child during play? Remember that you're your child's most important playmate and the center of their world, but we are only human, and we need to know when to refuel. So all of these things come from us. Look at how we feel about play. Are we promoting a good, positive image about play? You know, we are the role models that our children look to. So different, not less. Not all children reach their play or development milestones at the same time, but play is vital for every child. Developmental delay or differences need supported by simply building on their abilities and strengths, and not over focusing on their area of delay or challenge. Try to find the ability before the disability and scaffold their learning. That's the beauty of a strengths-based approach. Look at your child's strengths and move from there. Differences make the world go round, and all children learn many things from each other when encouraged to be inclusive. Remember, if we see a child differently, we will see a different and more capable child. So the main recap for me comes from, you know, looking at your observation skills as a parent. You know, how can I help my child? Do I need to help my child? What can I do to facilitate more learning through play? What does our home environment offer my child to grow and develop through play? But look at the richness of the home, because the home is their first playground, the home is their first school, and nothing will replace what we have within the home if we have a rich play environment. So finally, we have, remember the impact of screen time. Remember the 8 senses and their importance. Reflect on your own roots of play. Remember different abilities. We're different and not less. So thank you for listening.
Helga, that was brilliant. Thank you very much for that. I suppose just lots of ideas there for parents. And one of the things that struck me as well was, a lot of it doesn't cost. A lot of it's the time, and it's that
time,
and find and play, and the day-to-day stuff, and that's where children are going to learn.
Absolutely.
So that's just, as I say, a lot of food for thought there for parents. And really highlighting, just the importance of play on child's development.
Sure. It's all, it's all very simple stuff, but it's just having the time and connection to do it, and just having the information out there for parents and for them to share activities with each other. This has worked for me and this may work for you. We need to share and support each other as parents, because it can be a tough job at times.
Indeed it can. But come here, look, with all that information that you've provided there today, it'll make it a little bit easier, and definitely, there's lots for parents to be thinking on. So thanks very much, Helga.
You're very welcome.
Thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.